you guys know that we're going through this new series about friendships, but before we get started, I want to play a quick game, so I need 2 volunteers. Okay, come on, Derek. Come on, Paul. All right. So this is going to be a game that we all get a chance to participate in. So this thing is called Crowd Charades. So we're going to have Paul and Derek. So this is Derek. He goes to Jeff High. Paul's been out of school for like 60 years now. Let's stand over here. So you guys are going to face forward. And so there's going to be words coming up on the screen. And so as a group, you guys are going to try to act out what is on the screen and give them clues without saying words as about what that is. Whoever answers it first wins the round. And so you guys can be as creative as you want. You can do it as individuals. You can do it as a full group to try to help them out a little bit. So are you guys ready? Let's get the first word up here. All right. So here we go. So we'll start acting this out. Help them out. There, got it. All right, cool. We got this. Next word. Let's keep rolling. Okay, here we go.
Stopwatch. Eat your watch.
Bandage. Boy, you're getting smoked. All right. Next word. Here we go. Needle. Paul got one. Everybody give Paul a hand. Woo, Paul. All right. Next one. Here we go. What we got? Friend. Okay. All right, guys. This is it. Lightning round. The last one. Go. Thank you. So Paul Foster wins. And so, okay, cool. We're going to get right into this. Twizzlers. We'll think about it. So no. All right. So we're going to get back into this, okay? So here we go. So we're talking about friendship. And so those words that we just acted out, you guys did really good. At least a few of you did, okay? Did really good on the acting out of those words. All have something in common. So we did tape, we did glue, we did bandage. So all of those things are used to connect and fix stuff. And so whether it's a torn piece of paper or we got a cut on our arm, those things fix something that had been broken. And so you guys have actually been in school for a little bit now, so we're looking at a little over a month. You guys are kind of starting to get into the swing of it. But think back when you first started back into school, there was this excitement. There was a lot of new opportunity to develop new relationships. And so opportunity is every single day. So when you go back to school tomorrow, it's an opportunity to build new friendships, new relationships, or build upon the relationships and friendships that you guys have been building on so far this year. So here's the deal, though. Chances are that you and those friends and those relationships that you guys are starting to develop at some point are going to have to walk through some fire. And you guys are going to face some time where you guys are angry at each other, or someone's going to be suffering from fear or loss. And you guys, your relationships and friendships are going to go through and face some times of difficulty. And so I don't want to start this thing off on a really bad note or anything, and I know that this can kind of sometimes be a touchy subject, but there is some good news. There is some good news with all this, and it's when you are facing fear, hurt, loss, you're not in it alone, because God gave us each other. So God gave us each other. And so last week we said that in the fire, Winston talked about true friendships can be forged. And so today, we're going to talk about something else that friendships can do, especially in the middle of our biggest difficulties. So I want to share a story with you guys. This was a long, long time ago. But I was in a really rough spot. And so I was pushing a lot of people away. I stopped coming to church. And so all these cool, good friendships I had, I was pushing people away because I felt shame. I felt a lot of embarrassment. And so I was working at this job, and I just got out of this apartment situation I had to get out of. And so there was these two dudes, and they were like, I barely knew these guys. They were like, hey, man, we have an extra room if you want to come and live with us. And so I went in, I moved in with some dudes I just knew for like a month. And so they had this really strange structure in how they paid bills. And so it was somebody pays this bill, another person pays this, and somebody pays the electric bill. There really wasn't a lot of structure. I'm not even sure if I was getting a good deal or not, but I just knew that it was way cheaper for me to do that than for me to try to do this thing on my own. So I ended up moving in with these guys. And so one night I came home, and as I'm walking into the door, one of the guys were walking out, and they got a couple bags packed. I'm like, what's up, man? You leaving for the weekend? He goes, yeah, I'm going to go stay with my mom. And so I end up walking in the house. It's pitch dark. So I walk in, I flip a light switch, nothing happens. And so I start walking through, I'm flipping multiple light switches, nothing's happening, open the fridge, the thing's not working. And so back then I pulled out my cell phone, I had to flip it open, and there was no flashlight on them then, so you just have this like faint glow. So I'm looking around the house, and I see something sitting on the table, and so as I go and look, it's this electricity bill that's like over $1,000. So the dude who was responsible for paying the electricity bill obviously wasn't paying the electricity bill. So the thing is shut down. And so I start looking through the rooms, and everybody's stuff is gone, except for mine. So I'm like looking, I'm like, man, everybody's just up and left. And so I look into it, and I'm like, man, the lease is like a couple more months. I'm just going to tough this thing out. I'm just going to live in that house with no electricity. I'm going to rough it, okay? So I go a month. of living in this apartment in the middle of the summer with no electricity, just laying there staring at the ceiling all the time. And I remember getting a phone call from a guy, his name was Dave Parkerson. And if you guys recognize that name, it's because he used to be a student pastor here, was an outreach pastor, now he's doing something else. But really awesome dude. So he gives me this call, and he goes, hey man, I heard through the grapevine that you're living in an apartment with no electricity. And so I was like, yeah man, blah, blah, blah. And so he goes, well, come on over and hang out. Me and Michelle are going to cook you dinner. So I show up at his house, and as I walk into this living room, him and his wife are sitting there. It's like an intervention type thing. And I sit down, and they said, you need to go home, pack your stuff, and you're going to come here and live with us. And so I go home, I go to the apartment, I start packing all my stuff up, and I go and I live with Dave and Michelle Parkerson. So in this time when I'm going through this struggle and I'm pushing people away, here were some friends in my life that reached through when I'm walking through this fire and said, you are not going to do this alone. We are going to do this with you. We're going to pull you out of this time. And so I'm telling you guys this story because the same reason that we made you act out all of those weird words and doing all that kind of stuff, because I want you to know that true friendships are so powerful that they can help you heal. They can help you heal when you are going through stuff. And I know that there are a lot of you in here. There are a lot of you in here that are going through a lot of stuff. And so I want to encourage you guys to be at life groups if you aren't doing that already. You have people that want to pour into you. You can share those kinds of stories. But before we do that tonight, I want to share one other story with you. And this is a story from the Bible that happened thousands of years ago and is still very relevant to us today. So there's a book in the Bible, and it's called Ruth. And it's a pretty good title because it's all about a story of a woman named Ruth. Thank you. Catch on quickly. So here's how this story begins. There once was a couple, and the mom's name was Naomi, and she had a husband, she had 2 sons, and they lived in the land of Judah, which today is part of Israel and Palestine. So that's where they lived. They lived in a land called Judah, but decided to move to a place called Moab, which is now a part of Jordan. So because there was famine, and they were all starving in their homeland, they wanted to move. And they needed to make this shift. So Naomi, her husband's sons, moved to this land. And so here was the issue. They were Israelites. And the people of Moab, which if you guys don't know real quick, that the Israelites worship God of the Bible, right? And so they went to Moab, and in Moab they believed in a lot of false gods. And so, but they had food. So they're starving, they need food, so they're going to make this shift. They're going to go and they're going to move to a place where they know that they could have some serious issues. It's totally different cultures, a lot of different things happening. So they move into this place, and things seem to go extremely well, especially at first. So shortly after they arrived at Moab, her sons both married Moabite women. And so their wives were named Orpah. So when I first started studying this book, I always confused this name with Oprah. So if I do that, I'm sorry, but it's Orpah, okay? We flip the P and R around. Okay, and Ruth. But here's where the story turns. So shortly after their weddings, her husband and her two sons both died. Okay, so they both died, and it's very sudden. So Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth found themselves alone, and they're in mourning. And Naomi is in a foreign country, so she's in a place where she has no one around except for her daughter-in-laws. So she's grief-stricken, and so she decides that she wants to return home to Judah. So Orpah and Ruth, they plan to go with her. So we're going to read some scripture here, and it's going to be from the book of Ruth, and it's going to be 5 through 10. So with her two daughters-in-laws, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. But on the way, Naomi said to her two daughter-in-laws, "Go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. "No," they said, "we want to go with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Why should you go with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? No. Return to your parents' homes, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord himself has raised his fist against me." And again, they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. So let's imagine this, okay? So Naomi had her entire family taken from her in an instant. She had her entire family taken from her in an instant. She's grieving, she's angry, she's hopeless, she's feeling hopeless. And so she has two people left in the whole world, and that is her two daughter-in-laws. And one of those daughter-in-laws just left, and she'll probably never ever see her again. And the other one is clinging to her and is not leaving her side. So here's the point. If you are wondering who your true friends are, it's the people that when you are going through something and you are pushing them away, they are clinging onto you and saying, "No, I'm not going to let you do this alone. No, I'm going to stand by you while you're walking through this fire." And so we're going to read on. And it says, "Look," Naomi said to her, "your sister-in-law is gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same." But Ruth replied, "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us." When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing more. So the two of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. "Is it really Naomi?" the woman asked. "Don't call me Naomi," she responded. "Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me home empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer and the Almighty has sent such tragedy upon me?" So Naomi returned to Moab, accompanied by her daughter-in-law Ruth, the young Moabite woman. They arrived in Bethlehem in late spring at the beginning of the barley harvest. And so, if I had been through what Naomi went through in this story, I probably would have been bitter. I probably would have been angry, and I felt hopeless as well. In Hebrew, the name Naomi means pleasantness. The name Naomi means pleasantness. So that is why she told them to call her Mara. She didn't want to be called Naomi because Mara means bitterness. So Mara means bitterness. And so Naomi was broken. She was a grieving woman. But Ruth wasn't giving up on her. Ruth left her home and traveled with Naomi to a foreign country where she didn't know anyone, and to have foreign language, foreign beliefs. And Ruth vowed to stick with Naomi for the rest of her life, no matter what. And so here's what Ruth means in Hebrew. Ruth means friend. Ruth means friend. And so Ruth stood by Naomi, and she was her friend. Naomi was bitter, and Ruth was her friend. And so here's the deal. Bitterness and all that stuff, when we're going through struggle and grief and anger, isn't easy for anyone. And so fortunately for Naomi, she had something that I hope and I pray that all of you will have in a time when you need it. And that is a friend that has promised to walk by you, alongside of you, through pain. And so this kind of friendship in the face of fire can often be key to our healing. So let's look at this again. In Ruth 1:16 says this, and this is something that Ruth promised to Naomi: your God will be my God. So because of her love for her mother-in-law, Ruth chose to follow Naomi's God. And so I don't know about you, but Naomi's God is also my God, and I know this is that my God is a God who heals. My God is a God who heals. So this year, it is my hope that you will find your Ruth. You will find someone that will walk alongside of you when life gets hard. And it's also something I pray for, that you will be a Naomi to someone else, that when life seems like it's just a little bit messy and things are tough, that your faith and your love is something that they'll say, man, that is something I want to be a part of. That is a God that I want to follow. And so no one wants to go through fire and tragedy and difficult times. But here's one thing, and we always say this, but here's the point of this whole entire thing today. And when we leave, this is what we want to follow. It's the only point I got, is this. In the fire, true friendships can be healing. So in the fire, true friendships can be healing. So when life is at its most difficult, God doesn't leave us alone. Not only is He with us, but He also gives us each other. And so we are designed by our Creator. We are designed by our Creator for relationships and community. And so with each other, in the good times, in the bad times, and maybe especially in the bad times. Maybe especially in the bad times is what we need to do. So as we wrap this thing up today, here are a few things that I want us to think about. And do you have any friends in your life right now that need a Ruth? And if so, what is keeping you from being that for them? What is keeping you from being that for them? And so this week, it's my prayer that you start building more Ruth and Naomi kinds of friendships. The kind of friendships that heal you and help you heal others. It's like that story I shared earlier about Dave. When he came in, I was going through one of the toughest times of my life, and here was a person that said, you are going through this time, you are walking through this fire, but you will not do it alone. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to walk alongside of you in this moment. Last week, we also talked about how Winston showed us that exposure to extremely hot flames hardens steel. And he showed us that little basketball man hardens steel into something much stronger. And so today we talked about something else that fire can do. Fire can put broken things back together. When we're walking through fire, it can connect us with something that was once disconnected. And so I'm going to pray for us. We're going to go into one more song. It's called Tremble. And we're going to worship together. So God, we just thank you. We thank you for those friendships and relationships in our life that when we are going through something, we are going through some times where things seem unbearable. But you made us for each other. You created us not to be alone. That we have you and we have our friendships and relationships. So God, we just thank you for that. God, we just love you so much, and everything we do show that. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen.